Back in November, after almost 10 years in the systems engineering department, I moved over to the ECE, or electrical and computer engineering department. I have to say I'm very happy with the move, and I wasn't unhappy with my old department, but I had an opportunity to take over for someone who was retiring in the ECE department. So far, ECE has been supportive and welcoming, and I really appreciate it. I'd like to give some examples today of the leadership styles I've learned from both my old and new departments. Recently, I have been very impressed with the systems engineering, or SE chairman, in regards to a young professor who recently passed. It was really tragic. This professor was only a couple years older than I, and he died very quickly of brain cancer. We all thought he was getting better because he had finished chemo, and there were plans for him to come back to work after Christmas. The chairman fought and made sure that the sick professor got an award of tenure. And he actually flew out to Iowa and presented the award of tenure to the professor and his family. This is an example of altruistic or ethical leadership. I believe this was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, the cancer came back and the professor passed just 2 days after getting a tenure. Not every professor, or excuse me, not every chairman would have gone to these lengths and would have fought and would have traveled and make that effort. But he said it was the very least he could do. When I first started in SE, I worked on a swarming UAV or drone project, and I'll use those two words interchangeably. I've mentioned this project to you in previous speeches. The Professor Tim Chung was the head of the project, and he had a very innovative, pace-setting, and coaching leadership style. How was he innovative? He imagined a DARPA-like grand challenge of 50 versus 50 UAVs or drones battling it out in the sky. He had us constantly testing our equipment, creating and updating software at a very rapid pace for this experimentation. And did we meet the goal? Not quite. We flew 50, not 100, but this was back in 2015, and back then that was a record. This was significant because these drones weren't being flown manually. They weren't given waypoints to fly on their path, which is a traditional method. Instead, once we launched them, we gave them a mission, and they figured out autonomously how to fly their mission amongst themselves. And this was due to the software our programmers built. So it's because of Dr. Chung pushing his team with innovative and fast-paced development, which caught the eye of DARPA, which stands for Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. And in 2016, right after the 50 event, he went and worked for them as a project manager, or PM. And most PMs at DARPA only stay there for 3 years because DARPA likes to get in new ideas and new blood. But Tim, because of his leadership styles, actually stayed twice as long for 6 years. And he left in 2022 and is now the head of robotics at Microsoft. And I can say personally that he has a great coaching style because he always personally made sure that I was growing professionally and personally. He had a lot of solicitude towards me. And I actually credit him from being in Toastmasters. He wanted me to be able to brief this project. And he knew I was petrified of public speaking, but I wanted to be able to help him and the team brief this project. And I said, no, I think I need to practice and join this thing called Toastmasters. And he said, done. Consider Toastmasters part of your work. And that was back in 2013. Here I am 10 years later, almost to the day, and I can say that Toastmasters has changed my life. So my third set of examples is in my new department, ECE. I'm working for a group of folks that I will call Team Amazing, and they use a very affiliative approach. They create cohesion by emphasizing teamwork. They communicate openly and foster collaboration amongst the group. They have made sure that I have everything I need, and they're always checking in on me, which I really appreciate. Team Amazing also uses a very democratic approach, and that they seek input from everyone in the team before making a decision. And I feel like my opinions matter. And in fact, the director of this team who is a retired Navy captain, just told me a couple weeks ago that I give very sage advice. And I was like, oh, thank you. I really appreciate that everyone wants and appreciates my opinion about things. So in summary today, I've talked about almost all the leadership styles that are listed in this project and pathways: affiliative, democratic, coaching, innovative, pace setting, and altruistic. And I've given examples of all of these, but my big takeaway from going through this project is that I've seen each one of these leadership styles used in a positive way in my life. Mr. Toastmasters,